Hello ladies and gentlemen, so here we are back with another commentary, and this is going to be an ongoing theme. As I said, going to try and do one each time I stream. That is way too loud. So, WZ-132, this was in fact a game that was sent in to me. And why am I doing a commentary of it? Well, it's a nice game in all regards, but the main factor at play in my choice was the fact that, who we got here? While the Talon in the WZ here is not a fantastic player. He's not bad by any means. In fact, he's just about your average Joe. His win rate is better than a few that you'd see around this W8 level, but the way he plays in this game, you wouldn't be able to tell just by looking at the gameplay that his statistics are so relatively low. He played this game phenomenally, and I really enjoyed it. There's a bit of luck going on both sides, but let's discuss the tank. Let's discuss the capabilities that limit any player. Those god-awful numbers that I feel are so... That's good commentary right there. You can't think of anything, just make noises. So, WZ-132, I'll remind everyone, and myself actually, that this replay is from 9.17.0.1, because Wargaming wouldn't want to make that easy, would they? So, point is, this is before the light tank changes. As you can see, look on the enemy team. There's a G4 lightweight and a 1390 who are tier 8. Whereas now, they are both tier 9. It also means that the 1390 has a 6-shell autoloader instead of a 4-shell autoloader, and that is going to come into play later. No spoilers though for now. So, you're seeing here, 250 alpha damage being put out each shot from this light tank, already put him up over 1.2k, and I like this play, because lesser skilled light tank players will not have the awareness needed to know exactly how far they can push an engagement before they have to run like a scared little bitch. Because that's what you are in a light tank. It's what you have to be. You have to keep yourself alive. A dead light tank does nothing. So, I was pleased to see the relocation here. As I said, 250 alpha damage, that's from a 100mm gun on this tank, and that to me is interesting because you only have a choice between two guns on this. It's either an 85mm or it's a 200, bloody hell, a 100mm, and myself, I generally prefer guns of lesser caliber with a higher rate of fire. The 85mm has 11.11 rounds per minute, with somewhere around 167mm of pen, I think. I could be way off on that, my brain's just shut down. But the point is, it has a superior rate of fire and accuracy to the 100mm gun. So, for me, that bigger rate of fire, that better DM, suits my playstyle of a light tank more. But that said, having the alpha damage can be quite nice, and the rate of fire on this gun is not too bad by any means. It's 8.22 rounds per minute, or at least it was in a previous patch. Armor is negligible, 55 at the front of the turret, 35 at the side, 20 at the rear. Hull, 50 at the front, 25 at the side, 20 at the rear. It's a light tank, you can't expect too much, but 55mm front of the turret with that gun mantlet, it's quite nice. 520 horsepower, giving it a horsepower per turn of about 21.39. 0.26 accuracy with a 0.26 accuracy with a 2.3 second aim time, yes. And you know what? I'm gonna stop talking about the tank because it's almost entirely irrelevant, because this tank doesn't exist in the current state anymore. Let's instead talk about what's going on in this game. Now, you'll notice some patch bugs with the notifications there popping up with 0 damage and stuff, but you've got XVM at the top to keep up on the damage. So, on your location, very important thing in the light tank, and one of the things that impressed me about this game, you know, he's using this position out wide to pin down the enemy, and he seems to have very good knowledge of when he's going to get spotted, despite that IS probably having, definitely having 350 meters of base view range. You can see he picks up a spotting kill on that ISU there. 350 meters of base view range on that IS. He's not taking any chances, and always reverses back from the bush after he fires, but IS opening out the distance now, and he's going to go down without much of a fight. And you can see how he managed that flank to pretty much perfection, drawing the enemy in and out into the open. Now, to give you an idea, I always like to do this because I feel like it's helpful, what the enemy team should have done in that situation, and I'm going to pause it despite people getting mad at me because, hell, I want to tell you something that's hopefully going to be enlightening. This is something that comes into fruition on a lot of maps, certainly in the current meta of the game. Something like Redshire is a good example. Redshire is a map where you push through one flank in cover, and then you're left at the beginning of a long open area. That's true on most of the flanks on Redshire. The thing is, and this is true of almost every map in the game, the closer to the middle of the map you are, the better your chances at relocating and influencing another flank. And you've got to consider whether going out there is really the most useful play at the time, because all too often it's not. And you see people pushing that flank merely because it's the continuation, the extension of the logical path they would take. Pushing down one flank, they want to stay on the flanks. Right? It's just, it feels natural, so they push up and push up. Sometimes, if people are on this range and you've got people moving up there, then yeah, someone out wide putting supporting fire is great. But in that situation, from the enemy team, it would have been far more effective for them to push up in cover, right here, in these cover of the buildings, use this position, draw our team over, use some supporting fire that they would still have had there, and by so doing, they would make the position of the light tank out wide pretty irrelevant. And so, pushing in cover, taking a straight shot would have been far better, in my opinion. Now, we got an AMX-30 making a move, and I'm going to call him Wav. Wav has told the AMX to follow him, as he's going to go in on this T-54 lightweight, who is quite isolated at this point. He's got full health still, so wants to use it as well as he can. The lightweight does take a hit low roll from the AMX-30 there, and puts him down. Now this 1390 is going to make mistakes with his positioning here. He should be more aware and moving forward out of the line of fire of Wav here. MX-30 misses, and now we have a 2v2 right now. And obviously you can't see the ammo that Wav is firing here, but you'll see later in the game he mentions he has 10 shells left, so that's going to be a consideration at this point as well. But more to the point, where is that T28 HTC? Because the AMX-30 is a one-shot for that HTC. HTC is 320 for damage, and as we know... Yep, I'm pausing it. You know what? Screw it! It's my commentary, I can do whatever I like. So, AMX-30, right? In the current state of the game, in this replay, 6 shells. 6. 240 alpha damage per shell. That gives it, what? 1,440 clip potential. He is within clipping potential of that 1390. The AMX 30 theoretically is a 2-shot for the AMX 1390, and the AMX 1390 can take 2 hits from the gun of the AMX 30, that 105mm gun with 260mm of pen. And now, this is, in my opinion, a mistake that WAV is about to make. He says to the AMX 30 that he's gonna relocate, but leaving the AMX alone on a 1-shot, he tells him don't die, which, you know, is great advice. Leaving him alone on a 1-shot against an autoloader, a tank that is naturally opportunistic, for me is a recipe for disaster. And indeed, while he's over here looking for the HTC, it turns out that the AMX 30 is set upon by these guys and dies as a result. And that is a lucky hit with just standard AP while the AMX 1390 was moving. So I'm going to go out on a limb right now and state that he was firing APCR with 244mm of pen. Potentially he's run out of AP. Also potentially he's after the increased shell travel time that would have afforded him the ability to hit that shot with auto aim as opposed to having to lead the shot with AP. Now, 1 versus 2, but he is in a favourable position to come out on top. He's got full health. He's a top tier light tank, so not bad. And he's at 4,000 damage right now. And it is impressive. It does bear mentioning. 4,000 damage while being on full health. And normally in a situation like that, you'd be saying, oh, he could have done this, he could have done that. But you can't really look at this gameplay and want for anything more than WAV has given us here. He's always been playing the most important role in the game at the time, and it's one of the reasons I really enjoyed this gameplay. And remember, this is an encounter cap circle, so it takes twice as long to cap as it would normally do in a standard game, so he's got time to mess about with it. That said, it is getting a bit tense. 35 seconds left on the cap, and he's being cautious, waiting in these bushes for his binos and cannonette to activate, and there we go. You can see, even in what must be a stressful situation for him, he's still keeping his head, and he reverses behind the bush before firing, allowing the bush to maintain its camo rating and keep him concealed. And there's the 1390. That would be lovely if he got the hit, but it looks like he missed and hit the T28 instead. Not the end of the world, but that 1390, 6 shells, 1,440 clip potential, and he's coming straight for him. And he fluffs a shell. The 1390 should not be firing right now. He can still clip him, and now he can't. Now, it is impossible for the 1390 to clip him, and the 1390 played that terribly. He should have just come straight in, taken the hits, and done what damage he could have. As a result of his poor play, he dies to WAV's 24-ton tank, something like that. That is not what you want. Bit of poor driving there, in my opinion. Should have really perhaps stayed behind the building. There's no RT. There's no way the T28 is going to come out and pressure him. I might have stayed behind the building. Well, in all likelihood, I'd probably be dead because I'd have missed every single shot. You can see in chat, he's very happy with it himself, as well he should be at this point. 4.7k damage is not anything to sniff at. Now, this is a tense situation, is it not? You're a one-shot now, most definitely. Even the high explosive from the T28 will most likely be enough to finish him off unless it hits him in the gun or the tracks. But god damn, it's almost like I would say 50-50, but it's not. It's basically 25% chance. Alright, T28 has got 4-ish ways to look. You could be looking that way, that way, that way, or that way. And you've got to commend some, I guess, for both the relocation here, coming from an unexpected direction, and the sheer amount of balls that it takes to do what he's doing right now, which is to just say, okay, feck it, I'm either gonna win or I'm gonna lose. And that is a dangerous move against a tank which boasts the novelty. It boasts the novelty of having a gun that basically goes like this. Right? That's the novelty of the T28. It can sit there frontally and its gun just goes whoop, completely to the side. That was dangerous at the end. If the T28 had been more on the ball with his reactions, this might have been a heartbreak. That said, ladies and gentlemen, a splendid game, don't you think? And I can tell you, 51% wins on Sarth here. If he keeps playing like that, that is going to go up considerably in the future. He's got the mark of a good player, awareness of his own mortality and the need of his team at all times. Didn't play too defensive, which is a weakness of lesser skilled players. Well, actually, no, it's not a weakness of lesser skilled players. It's a weakness of intermediate players who are just about learning the capabilities of both themselves as a player and of the tanks that they play. Lesser skilled players will yellow in and they won't care. Players that are starting to learn will often play too defensive. Didn't see any of that in this game, and it really impressed me. So, congratulations to Starve. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for watching. And, yeah. I'll see you in the next one. Farewell!